Hello, today we're going to be continuing with section 6.9. We're now going to focus on converting percents to fractions. Okay, so percent is a ratio that compares a number to 100. So 75% is 75 out of 100. Okay, which is 75 hundredths. We know this can also reduce to, if I divide by 25, reduce to 3/4. Okay, another thing to keep in mind is that we can simplify our fractions, and we should. Percents can also be greater than 100, but we would still always compare them to 100. So 426% here would be written as 426 over 100. We would then simplify them to a mixed number, which we would simplify if possible from there. So it's going to look like an improper fraction, but should be simplified to a mixed number. Okay. And then our fractions to a percent, they won't always work perfectly to give you 100. So if I am doing a fraction of 1/7, I'm going to compare that to something over 100. Okay, so you're going to do a proportion, cross multiply and solve. So 1 times 100 is 100. 7 times x is 7x, and then I would divide both sides by 7 to get my percent. Okay, your percent is going to be that number above 100. Okay, it's always out of 100, like we said before, because a percent is a ratio that compares a number to 100. All right. So we're going to write each percent as a fraction in simplest form. So remember, our magic number with percents is that it's being compared with 100. So I'm going to do 15 hundredths. At this point, you are allowed to use a calculator if you need to do your simplifying. All right, so I have 15 hundredths. I'm going to divide by 5. And I get 3/20. Okay, that cannot be simplified further, so my answer is 3/20, and I'm done. All right. Now I have 33 1/3%. Now I do not want you to change this to a decimal. I want you to keep it as a fraction. And I have 33 1/3 over 100. Well, we know we cannot keep it like that. Okay, we want to change it to our fraction. So this means 33 1/3 divided by 100. So when we divide fractions, we need to change this into an improper fraction. So I have 3 times 33, which is 99, plus 1 is 100 over 3. And I'm dividing by 100, so I'm going to flip and multiply. Okay, you'll see that my hundreds can cancel out, cross cancel, by dividing by 100. And then I'm going to multiply across. So I have 1 times 1 is 1, 3 times 1 is 3, and my answer is 1/3. So when I have a number at the top, I need to change it into an improper fraction and divide by 100. And remember, the rules for division are to flip and multiply. Okay, 180%. So I put 180 over 100, and we see that this is an improper fraction. So I'm going to change it to a mixed number. 100 goes into 180 once, with a remainder of 80 over 100. And then I'm going to simplify. So I know I can simplify by 20. And I get 1 4/5, and that is my solution. Okay, so if your percent is bigger than 100, know that your answer is going to be a mixed number. Okay. Then I have 0.6%. So I'm going to put my 0.6 over 100 still. Now we know that we don't want a decimal over our denominator because it doesn't make sense. It doesn't make it a fraction. So what I want to do is I want to make this a 6 by moving that decimal over this way. So I'm going to move this decimal over this way as well, because basically what you're doing is you're multiplying 0.6 times 10, which would be 6. So I'm going to multiply my 100 times 10, which would be 1,000. Okay, at this point I want to simplify if I can, so I'm going to divide by 2. 6 divided by 2 is 3. 1,000 divided by 2 is 500, and that's as far as I can simplify. So 0.6% is 3/500ths as a fraction. Okay, So once again, you write that decimal over 100 and figure out what I need to do to that number to get that to be a whole number. Okay, I multiply it by 10. If there's two numbers behind the decimal, I would multiply by 100. And then whatever you do to the numerator, you must also do to the denominator. Okay, now we're going to write each fraction or mixed number as a percent. So I have 1 and 2/15. So I'm starting out with mixed number. And if you recall, when I started out with my percent that was greater than 100, I originally wrote it as an improper. So I'm going to go ahead and change this to an improper fraction. So 15 times 1 is 15, plus 2 is 17/15. Okay, and I want this bottom number to be 100. Now there's nothing I can multiply 15 by to get 100, so I'm going to create my proportion. Okay, so I'm going to solve for x. What part of 100 is going to represent 17/15? So I get 17 times 100, which is 1,700. 15 times x, which is 15x. Okay, I want to get x by itself, so I divide by 15. Here's my crazy pen again. Divide 1,700 by 15. Okay, I'm going to get my calculator out. 1,700 divided by 15. Whoops, and I just messed that up. 1,700 divided by 15 is 113.3 repeating. 15 divided by 15 is 1, which is x. Now if I have a 3 repeating, we also know that it would be 113 and 1/3 percent, because it's a percent, is going to represent my x. I would prefer you to write it as a fraction. So 3 repeating is 1/3, 6 repeating is 2/3. Okay, please write it as a fraction. It looks better. That's my answer. Make sure when you change it to a percent, you have a percent sign on your answer as well. Okay, 9/20. Now for this particular fraction, once again, you want it to be out of 100. Well, I have a shortcut because I know 20 times 5 is 100. I don't have to set up a proportion. I still can. I can still make this an x and cross multiply and solve. Oops. Okay, you're more than welcome to do that. Okay, and you would get 900 divided by 20, which is 45. But you may also, pen, drive me crazy, but you can also just say, because 20 times 5 is 100, I know 9 times 5, let me get rid of that x for now, is 45. Okay, so what is my percent? It is 45%. Either way, whether you cross multiply and solve just to get x by itself, or you use the fact that you want it out of 100, you're going to get 45% as your answer. Okay, and then my last one, 7 over 1,600. All right, so once again, I want this to be changed into a percent, so it should be something over 100, because any number compared to 100 is my percent. I'm going to go ahead and make this a proportion. So I'm going to cross multiply, and you get 7 times 100, which is 700, equals 1,600x. Now you're going to see that this is going to be a small number as your percent. Okay? Because I like to see these as fractions, at this point I'm not going to divide my 700 divided by 1,600. I'm just going to simplify it as a fraction. So this is going to give me just x, and this is 700 1,600ths. So I'm going to simplify this fraction. This is my percent. This is my answer. I'm going to divide by 100, and you get 7/16%. Okay, 7/16%. So this way I keep it as a fraction, and I get my answer. Okay, so you're doing the same thing, you're cross multiplying, but because you know this is going to be a decimal small number, I keep it as a fraction and I just simplify it. I know all decimals have fraction equivalents, so I'm just going to simplify it to get 7/16, and that is my percent of 100. Okay? Please make sure you're referring back to these examples when you're doing your homework. Some of them are pretty easy, but others take a little bit more work. They're a little bit more complicated. Okay, so please make sure you're referring back to the examples. If you have questions for Mr. Kohlinger or I tomorrow, make sure you ask before you begin your homework. Okay? As always, thanks for watching.